Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media. I hope that you are having an amazing day. I am so excited to bring to the platform Brian T. Bradley, JD Esquire, who is a distinguished asset protection attorney, financial planner, and number one best-selling author of the book Overexposed. Brian is also a husband, father, and highly ranked Brazilian Jiu Jitsu practitioner. Wow, we definitely gonna have to touch on that a little bit. Brian is a sought after educator and speaker, both the legal and financial spheres. Brian is the founder of Bradley Legal Corp and Bradley Financial Planning and is passionate about educating people against legal attacks on wealth and empowering people to take charge of their financial well-being by leveraging tools like the hybrid bridge trust and personalized tax-deferred financial strategies. Wow. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Ida, for having me on. And, most people that have heard me talk, in the past have listened to me talk about advanced asset protection planning from like the law firm and the legal side of things. But like we were talking, before we started recording, I added to my law practice and partnered up with some of the top financial specialists that correlates well with my law firm. And that is financial planning with various, life insurance policies and solutions we can do on the business side and child development side and the Medicaid compliance side, and with like annuity products, as well as fighting, a very big need in society now, which is elder law and protecting clients financially so that they can immediately qualify for Medicaid, along with long-term care when they are in this like crisis mode planning so we don't lose anything. And then besides the law firm and the financial stuff, my wife and I started an executive coaching business, blending both of our expertise. She works for a big energy company. So we're also offering, certified Hogan evaluations and DISC assessments, 360-degree feedback to help businesses start optimizing their talent and executive leadership skill training, succession planning, employment development and all that good stuff. So like I said, like I'm in a lot of things because I'm just really passionate about helping people out.
Yes, yes. And we need people like you because it's a crazy world out there and we don't know what we don't know.
No, and it's hard to find, the solutions, and you can just do like a Google search, and then you get vomited a bunch of misleading information, like all of these predatory posts out there, and a lot of people they, unlike some lawyers, like they don't have ethical standards to actually stand by, and that they have to worry about. So like that's why I started writing books and going on a lot of these shows is just to start educating people on, like you said, like to help you know what you don't know and shrink that portion of the pie a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into elder care
Yeah.
because I
So,
mean, as we
yeah.
know, the population is getting older. There's so many of the baby boomers that are now at the retirement age, and just going into that part of your life is such a huge mystery. So
No, yeah, absolutely. And so this is probably one of the areas that I'm most passionate about is what do we do with an aging generation, right? And a lot of the issue comes down to the fact that we don't feel the pain until we feel the pain. And when we get out of the hospital and we need to start transitioning into a long-term care facility, we don't realize the cost of that and how it's going to literally attack the estate plan. And then our parents or our grandparents or ourselves, we're going to end up being left with nothing. And the sad thing is there's this thing called a 5 year look back period. And that means when you decide, like, okay, I'm going to apply for Medicaid and see if they're going to pick up the bill. If you transferred any assets before that, that within that window, you're now no longer eligible to receive the benefits for a certain amount of time. And so what do? You're going to start paying out of pocket. And the sad thing is, like I said, is like with estate planning, a lot of people don't create their wills or trusts until it's too late. And then grandpa dies and they're like, all right, who's getting what? Oh, well, grandpa, grandma didn't make a will, didn't make a trust. And then it creates this fight. Well, same issue when it comes to the Medicaid world. Now, what do we do when we're past that 5-year look back period? We're not eligible for Medicaid because we have too many assets. Shoot, what do we do? What people used to do is try to dump them into a Medicaid asset protection trust, but that won't work because you're still going to serve a blackout period, meaning you're not eligible to receive the benefits. So you're still paying out of pocket, right, to the long-term care facility. Well, what a lot of people don't realize exists are what are called Medicaid compliant annuities. And what these annuities do is it allows us to convert a one lump sum of, assets that would become like make you ineligible to receive medical benefits. Well, we can convert that and roll it over into these special annuities so that it's now considered a conversion of income, not of an asset. And then we create that monthly amount to make you qualify for Medicaid. Then Medicaid picks up the bill for you. And we can do this within that crisis planning, like that 5-year look back period zone. Because generally, mom or dad or grandpa are coming right out of the hospital and we got to put them somewhere. We don't got 5 years to wait. And so
Right.
that's where these Medicaid compliant annuities can really come in and solve that problem, when we are feeling the pain.
Oh, well, that's good to know because I was just in a situation where my husband, he's up in age and he was in the hospital. And when it first started, of course, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. And then you call Medicaid and it's like they want to know everything you own.
It's all
Everybody.
about dollars, cents, and time frames is what it's about.
Yeah. So talk a little bit when you say the 5 year window,
Yeah.
what is that? What does I need to understand.
Yeah. So there's a 5-year look back period. And what this means is like it comes down to countable versus non-countable assets, right? And you can't just give away assets and divest yourself and think that you can qualify for Medicaid, right? You can't sell your assets at discounted deals below market value to qualify. And so Medicaid has a 5-year look back period. And so they can look back 5 years from the time that the application is filed to see if you did any of these things. And if you check
Ah,
the box, yes, that you did do any of this, then you're subject to that penalty period of time that you're in the penalty box. So just think about it like hockey, right? Like you committed a foul and now you're going to have to serve a penalty period in the box before you can get back out and play the game. And the playing the game is having Medicaid pick up the benefits for you. So you have to serve this penalty box and you have to sit in the penalty box, and during that time that you're in that penalty box period, you aren't eligible to receive any benefits for that duration of the penalty period. And that penalty period is determined by calculating the total amount of gifted assets. And then you divide that by the state specific penalty divisor. It's like a big legal fancy financial word, right?
mhm.
Um, and that's going to give you the length of time that you're going to have to serve that penalty time period. So some people would have to serve, let's say, 6 months. Some might have to serve a couple years or longer. And so we can start seeing what the problem is, right, with that. And just to like throw some numbers out there so people really understand, and I think you can vouch for this going through some of this, yourself, is at-home care on average costs, $100 a day, and you generally purchase that in 4-hour blocks. So that is about $3,000 a month just for at-home care. But then as we get older, we need more care, right? And we transition into long-term care. The average cost of long-term care is $15,000 a month. And so the
Mhm.
average length of time that long-term care is needed is 2.8 years. So that's about $180,000 a year, $360,000 in 2 years, and $480,000. So just under $500,000 for long-term care for 3 years. And so that's the fight that we're fighting, that we're trying to use these Medicaid annuities for, so that Medicaid picks up that bill and accelerates their eligibility as fast as possible.
Wow. Woo. When you put numbers to it,
Insane, right?
it's scary.
Yeah, no, it's a modern day wealth destroyer, right? It's not death taxes, honestly, like we were talking about before. It's divorces, it's out of control economic issues with the governments, it's out of control medical costs, and these issues right here. These are your modern day wealth destroyers.
So how does one get an annuity to how do you qualify for that? What
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend like just calling up Edward Jones or whatever like that, because these are special annuities because there's legalities that have to be followed through them because it's really like an elder law thing. And so I would call an elder law attorney, to be honest with you. And just your traditional estate plan attorney might not do elder law. So you want to make sure that they do elder law as well. And then ask them if they do these annuities or not, especially if you're in crisis planning, because the idea is how do we pick up the bill and accelerate your eligibility now in crisis. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, and so there's specific annuities. You have to meet 5 specific elements that all have to be in existence at the same time. So not just any basic annuity is going to work. So if you call your financial advisor and say, hey, I want an annuity, realize any annuity is not going to work. It has to be specifically a Medicaid compliant annuity. So just make sure you get your language right. Find an elder law attorney or someone that does this type of stuff and talk to them about it.
Wow, that is huge, Brian, because everybody is dealing with, just about everybody I know is dealing with an elder
No, yeah,
situation.
I had to go through it twice, actually 4 times. Like all 4 of my grandparents are now passed on, and we had to deal with this with all of them. It was just insane, like the financial struggle and seeing where everything's going and the cost of long-term care and them losing their entire estate, not going to the kids, the grandkids, or wherever they want it to go. So how we solve that issue again, crisis planning. This isn't beforehand, right? Where we're putting it all in a Medicaid compliant trust 5 years before we feel the pain. Most people don't do that. Most people wait till they feel the pain. So what do we do when we feel the pain? Is these Medicaid compliant annuities.
Yes, yes. And then you don't know that. I mean, most people don't even know this.
No, exactly. Most attorneys don't even know it, and so that's why I'm starting to go out. Me and my associates are going out and starting to talk about these because people just need to know options that actually exist out there.
Yes, because it getting old ain't cheap.
No, it ain't. And it's a great way. It's a great way to just give the money to the wrong people and not what your plans were.
Yes, yes. Even, I mean, I look at the commercials on some of the facilities, because I was going to be dealing with that with my mom, and it costs like buying a house to get into some of these facilities for
And that's
elderly
the
people.
medium costs, what I quoted there. Those are the average numbers. And
Hmm.
those aren't even nice places where you would really want to see your loved ones going to. This is just the average care. Here in Oregon and Washington, it's anywhere from like 8,500 to about 15,000. And that's for the average place.
Yes, and they're not that great because my husband had to go to a facility for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I had to go up there every day, pretty much, and check things and make sure things were to my expectations, I should say. And you really have to monitor.
You really do. And the sad thing is you have a job, right? You
Yes.
have your own life that you have to deal with, or people have their own kids and their own kids' activities, and their parents now need to deal with this. And we're not nurses, we're not doctors. Like we don't have the knowledge for this, but then we have to, put them on check. And
Yeah.
so we want to make sure if you're trying to get into a good care facility, it's going to cost more. So
Hmm.
that's the point of like accelerating the eligibility for Medicaid to make sure that their needs are taken, the estate's not drained. And then let's say, your husband didn't do anything, and then all of your money is now going to his care. Well, what about your care later on down the road? Because now
Yes.
you just completely depovered you later on.
Yes. Wow. Well, you definitely gave me something to work on. Uh, because like you said, I mean, my husband is up in age. I got more years behind me than in front of me. I've got to start thinking about these things.
Oh, so estate planning, people, it makes you think about your own mortality, but it's one of those things, like insurance, right? Like the sooner we get ahead of it, then the more options we have. So you
Yeah.
want to be proactive in planning. And for those who are like in their 30s and 40s, go get an IUL with a long-term care rider. That way we're not in this situation, or something like that. A lot of people won't do that. And then we get in these crisis plannings, stages, but the best thing to do is just be proactive. Same thing with like businesses, right? Like go get some life insurance policies in your business and to help you protect, your businesses financially.
Yes. And a lot of businesses don't think about that.
No, sadly they don't. And so like when you are, business owners, right? Like what are some of your major concerns of ours, right? Like I own a bunch of businesses, you own your businesses. We can just break down four major concerns in the business world, right? One is, generally you want to sell your business eventually. So how can you successfully sell your interest in the business during your lifetime or, at your death to a family member or a coworker or to some third party, employee? So the question really comes down to like, how can life insurance help? Well, death benefits can provide funds to purchase your business interest at death. So that cash value that builds up acts as a tax deferred fund for purposes of purchasing your business interest during your lifetime, right? Like life insurance is very important for buy sell funding agreements. Another one is that let's say your business is highly dependent on, one or more key employees. This is pretty common. How can you ensure the continued success of your business throughout that transition of them either leaving or let's say they die? How can you make sure your business continues to be successful if you lose a key employee? Well, the cash value can be used to, informally fund an executive benefit plan to help you retain that key employee that, those ones that are essential to the continued success of your business. The death benefit can also provide funds to help your business recover from the death of a key employee or a partner. And this is just huge. There was this law firm that I associated with back in the day when I was just starting out as a young attorney. And the firm was very dependent on the main partner. And he had a sudden heart attack and died. And the firm didn't have any planning or financing in place for this exact situation. And then sadly, the firm had to close its doors and the employees were all let go. And a lot of them I still know today, and they never were able to economically recover from it. It was just devastating all around. So this is something that companies should consider having for their executives or C-suite team or their key employees. Also, just think about the death benefits can provide funds to pay off business debt that would be called due. And this is going to help you then become more financially secure. And this next one is actually really a big one for small businesses and those who are self-employed. You want to make sure that you have a comfortable retirement, right? So we work hard for a reason. So how can you, secure a retirement that's going to be less dependent on the continued success of your business? Well, again, the cash value can provide a potential source of supplemental retirement income so that you and your family aren't as dependent on the business for retirement. Or, the death benefits can be, used as a shortfall in retirement for a surviving spouse or your surviving spouse if you were to die prematurely. Or like a big fight that you see all the time, right, is like, what do you do to provide for your family and how do you treat the children who aren't actually involved in the family business? Well, the death benefits can provide funds to help the kids who aren't actually involved in the family business, and that way all the kids are going to be provided for and treated fairly. So whether they're involved in the family business or not, it doesn't matter anymore. It just stops the internal fighting.
Wow. Woo, Brian, you have dropped so many important concepts and important things for people to do. How do people connect with you to
Yeah,
get
you can.
going?
Yeah, just jump on my website, www.btblegal.com, especially if you're looking for like asset protection or these Medicaid compliant annuities. And if you're interested in more like the financial planning stuff, we got my website, www.bradleyfinancialplanning.com. I do free consultations, and my websites are used more for educational resources, or just email me directly, brian@btblegal.com. And like I said, like I'm here to just assess what your needs are and then see maybe we're the right fit together, maybe not, but I'd rather have you have like a good opinion.
Yes, yes, indeed. Because, like you said earlier, not everybody has integrity. Some people are they more about the money than the education.
What I notice is a lot of people just sell their strategy. And great, that might work for you, but it may not work for somebody else. But then it doesn't mean you got to go and dog other strategies that might work for somebody else.
Right.
So I look at it as here's the menu. My job is to assess, evaluate, give you a legal consult, a financial consult. Here's the menu. Now let's pick from the menu might actually like, work best for you, not just shove one strategy down your throat.
Oh, okay. Now, 401ks.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in the process now I'm thinking about doing a catch up kind of thing. I don't know whether I should do a Roth or a self-directed 401k.
Yeah, I like more rollovers into annuities, especially when we start getting past um I would normally wouldn't recommend it for people in their 40s. There's normally somebody like in their 50s or longer, but now I'm going more into people in their 40s. Like I'm about to like take a big chunk of my 401k and roll it over into an annuity. And again, like I think it might be just like break down like people don't even know what an annuity is,
Yes,
right?
I was going to say
So,
that's the
yeah,
fine.
what an annuity does is that it offers a guaranteed payment of money for as long as you're living through a process called annuitization. That's like a really fancy financial word. That means it just is converting an investment that compounds and grows into periodic payments, like monthly payments for life. And this is important to you because what it means is that you don't run out of money. So with the 401k, it can only give you as much money as you deposited into it, along with, the investment earnings that it made. And they're going to be subject to the market. So just think about how many times, even just like this last couple of years, when we're watching the market crash and, in the recent past, and we're just sitting there like this happened in August, like pulling out our hair, watching our 401ks just collapse. A 20% loss in the market can take 5 years or more to recover from. And that just keeps them adding years to retirement. So think of it like this. A 401k is like a container that's designed to hold money and help force you to save for retirement. Whereas an annuity is actually designed to actually create income. And annuities historically outperform 401ks. Now, they're both the key part of your financial planning, right? So don't get me wrong on that. They just work differently at different times and different stages of your financial planning and of your life. And the two of them can actually work together over time. So 401ks can force you to save by, withdrawing funds from your paycheck, tax deferred now, and then you roll it over into an annuity later to generate and create more future guaranteed post retirement income. And so what we're doing is that, with this plan is that we're grabbing a lump sum of money, and a lump sum will typically be coming from like your savings account or a traditional IRA or a 401k, 457, 403b, and you just, and just we're taking anything from like a deferred comp plan that you previously set up at work, and we're doing a lump sum into one of these annuities. And I think people have this idea that the end of the game and goalpost is retirement, this day, this time, right? 66, or like the specific number they have in their mind. They don't think about planning for post retirement.
Yeah.
What happens 15 years later? You got to start planning for that as well. Otherwise, you're going to run through all of that money in your 401k, and then you're going to be like our 85-year-old, 90-year-old grandparents wondering, where's the money at? Who's going to pay for my long-term care now? So we have to start taking money from the 401ks and the deferred plans, put them into these annuities. So now we have paid income for life for the rest of the time. And it kind of plans up with, do we get long-term care riders or not? So this is how we create the picture and the scope over the long period of time.
Wow. Yes, yes, indeed, because there's so much that you have to think about. When you
And we're
young,
not
you
taught
ain't,
this stuff.
no, we not. And when you young, you ain't think about none of that.
Oh, I try to explain this to my cousin. She's like 40 something, and she's like, I'm not dying yet. I don't need to plan for like Medicaid. I'm like, your mom's older, and if you don't start planning for this stuff now, when we don't need it, then it'll be too late, because then you won't qualify for some of these things, because then you won't be as healthy as you are now.
Yes, that's the truth. I mean, I try to talk to my son about stuff like he's like 27. So he is like, I'm walk, 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 walk.
Yeah. No, and that's where like the child head start plans, you get them when they're young, and you create these IULs, index funds. They're called child head start plans for your children. The idea is you work with it. Eventually, if you max fund them, by the time they're 40, they'll be millionaires. But you work with them every year and show them, this is your bucket, here's the money. And so you're teaching your children how to work the system, so that you're not trying to flood them when they're 20 and closed-minded to the world and know it all, right?
Right.
So you want to teach them the systems young, teach them financial planning that they're not getting at school, and then you're going to have very responsible financial, young adults later on.
Yes, yes. Wow. Brian, again, how do people connect with you?
Yeah, just jump on my websites that we mentioned before, www.btblegal.com or bradleyfinancialplanning.com, or just shoot me an email, brian@btblegal.com.
Now, do you help people set up some of this stuff? Because
Yeah,
I'm,
I do all this. I set it up. I got, from the asset protection side with the law firm with their fancy hybrid trust for those with 1 million or more in exposed equity. And then I have my financial licenses and my team with that. And then we set up the annuities. We set up, any life insurance plans that you need, estate plans. So we, kind of the point guard for your life now.
oh, okay. Well, that's good to know because you've talked about a lot of different things, and most people probably don't have a clue, and will definitely need guidance and support with it.
The idea is don't try to be your own Google attorney. Get a good attorney, get a good CPA. Don't be your own CPA. Create your team and let your team work their magic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are definitely going to have to do this again because there is so much to know.
Yeah. We
So
can we can
much.
talk. I can talk for hours like on this. I geek out over this stuff, and I can talk about jujitsu for hours. But
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. How'd
yeah,
you get involved with that?
yeah. I wrestled for a long time, and then I got went to law school, took some time off, and was working out in the gym one day, and a buddy was like, "Oh, I know you, from back in the day in wrestling." He's like, "Why don't you come in to do a practice?" I was like, "No, I'm good. I don't do that anymore." And he's like, "You don't just that portion of your life doesn't die." So he's like, "Well, eventually convinced me to come into a gym." I was like, "Okay," and just fell back in love with grappling, and it's kind of the next level of it. And then the coach convinced me to do a tournament, and I crushed it, did really well, won. And I'm like, listen, like if we're gonna do this, I'm naturally competitive. What's the highest level that I can do this at? And so he's like, yeah, we can go compete through like IBJJF and ADCC. And I'm like, all right, let's go do this. Let's go be world champions. And then 3 years later, it worked out. Won PANs a couple times and a couple world championships, and
Oh,
enjoy teaching. And it's a great way to just stay in shape. And hashtag dad bod. Like when you're 40 years old and so 20-year-olds are scared of you. It's a good thing when you got two young daughters and a bunch of world championship stuff like, take my daughter out, come sit at my desk, and I don't need to say anything.
right? Oh, no, that's right. Okay, author, overexposed. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my book, I realized, with the law firm there never was a horn book about asset protection, how to protect your assets. There was always, one thing on an LLC, another thing on a land trust, and there wasn't a book about what does it look like overall? Like how do we layer this? How do we structure it? Why do we care? What's changed? And no one's told that story. And when clients were calling in and they're watching all of my presentations or me talking at, financial summits, like, oh my God, like finally someone that's not BSing us, but we can't find a book on this. And I was like, all right, well, no one wrote the book. I'll write the book then. And so I just wrote it as like the master horn book of here's why we care about asset protection. The world's completely out of control. The government's trying to take your stuff. People are victim class now. They want to sue everybody. Like no one wants to take responsibility. The judicial system's out of control. They're not going to have your back. So how do we protect ourselves from this out of control world right now? And then it goes through the pros and cons of each stage, pros and cons of LLCs, pros and cons of the next layer, management companies, the world of trust that no one talks about, and what's an asset protection trust? When do we use it? What types of trust are there? What's an offshore trust and a hybrid trust? When do we use each stage? What marker of risk and assets do we have? And then I just put the story back together at the end. And now you have a resource of, I'm at this stage of my life. I probably need this type of protection. I'm at this stage of my life. Now I need to level up. And it's very quick read and it's an easy to follow format.
Wow, how can we get the book?
Yeah, you can jump on my website, www.btblegal.com, and you'll get a pop-up. Just click that pop-up and it'll take you to the book.
All righty, that is awesome because we need to know for sure. And so many things that you've talked about today, I had no clue,
No,
no
that's
clue
that's
about.
the general thing that I get, and I always hate to be the like shock factor person, but it tends to be that. And then when I do like long presentations or summits, I talk through case law. to where it's like, here's the law, here's the cases, here's the facts. Like this is the world we're living in. Don't be scared. Just know how we're investing and how we're living, and then we can make better decisions.
Yes, and knowledge is power. When you know better, you do better.
No, exactly. And when you know your finances are safe and then your assets are secure from lawsuits, it actually allows you to take more risks safely and know like, okay, like if something were to go belly up, I have my plan in place. I'm financially protected if I die. My family's going to pay the bills. The mortgage will get paid. My wife won't have to sell and move the kids because my income's lost, right? Like that's the financial adulting. If I'm taking risk in business or real estate, I got my asset protection plan in place. Like I can keep swinging and don't worry if a lawsuit comes, I'm protected there. So as long as we build up our protection systems, you're going to make it a lot easier for your financial self later on.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, Brian, we're gonna have to do this again. Like
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
I was telling you, it's probably gonna be a series so that we can focus on one thing and really get clarity because people need to know this stuff. This is so important.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about all this stuff in my head, not really knowing who to talk to, how to talk about it, what to talk about.
But even like, what are the questions to ask?
Yes.
I mean, it's a daunting topic. And then how do you know you're not being fed a line of BS from an answer? Even you get attorneys who don't know a lot of this stuff. You have an estate planning attorney offering you legal advice on how to protect your assets. Well, they're not an asset protection attorney. It would be like you coming up to me and saying, hey, I need a defense attorney because I committed murder. Can you go defend me in court? No, that's not my area of law. I don't know everything about, I know my areas, right?
Right.
Just like a doctor, I don't want a general doctor doing brain surgery on me. I'm going to go to a brain surgeon specialist.
Right, exactly, exactly. So we will definitely be in touch and you will definitely be coming back because
Shoot.
I want to keep this conversation going. So thank you so much, Brian, for taking time out of your day to share this very, very important information. And audience, thank you. You have definitely have to probably look at this over and over and over again so that way you know some of the terms because it's like foreign to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.